Welcome everyone to the South End Zone. We are live. It is the college football playoff. I guess the review. We're going to break down the bracket. We're going to go through everything that they just revealed this bracket earlier today. Yes, Tyler, we are going to give you your opportunity to do the horns down because Georgia took it to Texas last night with their backup quarterback. Congratulations on that. Tyler is here. You see our good friend Drew Sample. He's our resident Ohio State and Big Ten homer. So
Hey,
we
I was credentialed. I'm applying to get credentialed. I could be credentialed.
There you go. All
Ohio
right. And
State.
and look,
I'm
you
on the
you give
beat.
us you get to give us some inside information. I was surprised you told us one little tidbit that is just crazy. I wonder if it's like this for all of those games
Most
where there's
likely.
a host site where Tennessee got 3,500 tickets total. That's insane.
And
Like,
it's starting out
Wait,
at
good luck,
100,
what?
buddy.
100. Yeah, $100 a ticket is the lowest ticket cost.
That's
That's
insane.
crazy. Like, yeah,
That's
I
so
saw the 3 host sites. Other than I think Notre Dame is trying to scalp the crap out of people for money, but other
Mhm.
than that, like, it looks like the prices are fairly reasonable at the other 3 places.
I mean, $100 starting out is pretty. I mean, when you think about the Big 12, the Big
Yeah,
10 championship was just $12 a ticket.
was it really?
Yeah,
I
because
mean, it's the Big Ten, so I'm
I
just
know, but
messing.
that's still
no, I
I'm
insane.
think
messing
I
with.
think it's because it was like if it was Ohio State, Oregon. I don't actually know why. I think a lot of it could be like economic reasons. Like people are usually used to saving for that one big game.
Which makes sense.
Mhm.
And it's like if they're playing for a home game, like would you rather if you had a choice Big Ten championship or a home playoff game, which one are you gonna go
Yeah.
Mhm.
to?
Right. Right.
Also,
All right.
fuck
So
Indiana. Sorry, am I allowed to
let's
say the F
let's
word? My bad,
let's
Yes,
Chad.
go
yeah,
for it.
it's fine. It's not for children. It's all good. But it's one of those kind of years where like I I'm looking at this bracket and we think we know, but I what I've seen so far this year is we don't know shit. Like I
Mhm.
would not be surprised if we have like 5 upsets, in the first 2 rounds. It would be not at all surprising if you have something where you have a team that makes it out of the first round and runs all the way through to the semis. Or I don't know what's the upset. Arizona State, Boise State winning their game or them losing because they're the higher seed. Who knows? We'll get into it. But for right now, Drew, if you will indulge my friend Tyler, he had a pretty emotional night last night, and I want to let him give himself his flowers and his Bulldogs. Georgia takes the SEC. We defend the crown. We defend the turf. We don't let invaders come into the SEC and just win the conference. That's something the Big Ten does,
It's
and
embarrassing.
the Big 12 does. The Big 12 let the Pac 12 runner up, or not even runner up, like an also ran. A team that they picked to finish last in the Big 12 came in and won from the Pac 12 in the Big 12. At least with Oregon, it was like you had the Pac-10 runner-up, or Pac-12
Mhm.
runner-up, come in and win the Big Ten. But Georgia, Texas A&M, or Texas was talking all that shit, Tyler,
Favored.
about how you heard Matthew McConaughey on the pregame
Mhm.
talking about the mighty SEC. Well, we here, blah, blah, yeah, yeah. You beat nothing but the bottom half of the conference all year, and you're 0-2 against teams in the top 8 in the SEC. They're both Georgia, but you're 0-2. So Tyler, take us through the whole thing, all the way through, like
Yes.
the way that it started, which was ugly, the Carson Beck injury, which was
Mhm.
even uglier, and then how in the hell Gunnar Stockton just got it done.
So we just have abandoned the ability to beat somebody pillar to post. It is never going to happen at this point. Like this is our identity now, is just showing up in the key moments within the game that can turn the tide just enough, but
Right.
still give me a heart attack 6 times over. That's just like where we're going to be. It was gross. It was so gross. We had generated zero offense. It was the typical Mike Bobo. Let's put ETN up the middle, even though he's way better outside and Frazier's way better up the middle. Let's keep doing that and let it not continue to work. Let's let Arian Smith keep dropping the ball. Let's not tackle. Let's keep getting beat on the slant route. Let's keep doing all of these things. And it comes all the way down. And despite all of that garbage and getting dominated at one point, I think by the
It
end
was
of the first
260 to
half,
56 or something like
by
that
the
in
first
yardage.
half, they had the ball for 15 minutes and we had it for 4
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of the first half. And
Mm-hmm.
then, as we all know, it was exact same he's not good with the pocket. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Let me get very clear. He's not Aaron Rodgers in the pocket when it comes to Hail Marys. Because the same exact thing happened against Georgia Tech, where like the rushing end that got behind him snuck up and got him. It happened the same thing with Georgia Tech, where his throwing arm got hurt or knocked down, and the same thing happens. And then we're like, well, what's he gonna do? Like, is he gonna come in? And you see his arm literally hanging, like literally. It's literally. You guys remember when Matthew Stafford like dislocated his shoulder for the Lions and then still won the game?
Yeah.
The same vibe. It's just like his arm is literally hanging off of his.
He's like, I can throw the ball.
I can throw the ball. Carson Beck could not throw the ball. We didn't need him to.
Carson Beck couldn't hold the ball.
Stockton steps in. He's a 4-star recruit from Georgia, and we're like, we've seen. He played the entire second half against Florida State's JV team last year. And then he stepped in against UMass. So other than that, haven't seen him a whole lot. So like, what is he going to do? Immediately marches down the field. I swear to God, Mike Bobo dusts off the Stetson Bennett playbook and just, all right, here we go. QB draws. We're going to roll him out this way. We're going to roll him out that way. Dude, he puts his shoulder down in the Texas guy's chest and talks shit the whole way up. I'm like, is this like that is the most Stetson Bennett thing I've ever seen. And then he looked more confident off the rip, like more confident than Carson Beck looks 90% of the time. Like he came in, let championship on the line. And I said Tua at the beginning of the half, and then it took SEC, ABC toward the fourth quarter to make the same comparison. I'm like, shut up.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts coming in against us and all that. And we go
I'll say
down.
this about the Tua thing. Tua was like the number one quarterback recruit that year. And so it was kind of like people were kind of waiting for him to take that job from Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts was, and you and I have talked about this, and nobody wants to agree with us because they don't remember, but Jalen Hurts was so mid at Alabama. And I mean, like borderline terrible. There's a reason why he lost that job. And that's why I've compared him to Jalen Milroe. It's like there's these spurts of like you see something great, and then it's just like, who the hell is this guy? Can't throw the ball, can't complete a pass, and it's all on his legs. But so Stetson Bennett Jr. comes in. And
Aaron Smith catches 2 passes from him. He's 2 for 2.
I'm telling you, it's the answer. The answer is he's got to throw the ball.
But it drives me insane because he simultaneously is the best route runner on the team with the worst hands. So he's always open and can't catch the goddamn ball. It's the worst combination you could possibly have.
Because he's the guy that's like LSU's receiver that jumps every time he tries to catch.
Chris Hilton would jump early, and then like at least Arian Smith jumps on time. He just still jumps when he doesn't need to. Chris Hilton would jump, and then he'd be like on his way down, and the ball would like go over his hands. Like what are you doing?
Well, these balls are hitting jump, at least jump. Chest.
Yeah.
Aaron Smith got hit in the face mask last night and dropped the ball.
Right. And if he had just stayed on his feet, it would have caught. He would have caught it right here instead of right in his face. But
we give Stockton that opportunity to go down. We score, and then we're kind of playing very conservative ball. We do the whole 3 runs and a field goal. And then Dalen Everett shows up with a massive, massive interception late. He had 2 picks in that game, too.
He was big in the first matchup, too.
Exactly. Dalen Everett, the Jalen Walker, Dalen Everett, the boys got busy, and we love it.
And they kept throwing at him. Kept throwing at Dalen Everett after he'd already thrown 2 picks to him. Like,
because they kept getting hit. They literally like they got us deep a bit in the early goings, and then it was literally just a slant to goal like 5 times over. Do that, and then we get the turnover late. We're like, okay, let's ice this bitch. At least make them force them. If we can at least get a field goal out of this to make them have to go the length of the field late. And of course, Stockton throws a pick. I think he was trying to throw it to the sideline.
About that, because I while we were watching this game, I'm texting you back and forth. I'm like, why won't they let him throw the ball in the red zone? Like you can't just run the ball up the middle 2 possessions in a row when you're inside the 10, 15-yard line. You've got to, the dogs are barking. They love the dogs. Anyway, but you can't just do that. You got to like let him throw, even if it's something safe. You got to let him roll out and try to find a tight end. So they don't do that. But then when you should be running the ball to ice the game, they roll him out to throw the ball, and he throws it to
empty set. They roll him empty, and then let's figure it. They leave him empty and then don't give him. It's a 3-step drop and the defense is there. Like they don't give him a chance to roll out to this. Like when we were getting down to the red zone, I'm like, okay, this little run the ball 5 times and then kick the field goal may work. But if we're gonna let him pass, we need to roll him out and give him options. Like we need to do that. He has the legs, and if he doesn't have the option, just let him do it with his own feet, and he can get us a first down. But we throw the ball away, and dude, what a name about being named Bert Auburn is a Texas kicker's name with a long curly hair.
Right.
And he missed earlier too.
Yeah, he missed twice.
Yeah. Yeah, he missed
and
twice.
so
and I was telling Tyler the way he missed both of those the same way, like hooking him left. I was like, man, he's all the way on the left hash. I wonder if he's going to try to overcorrect and he might like push it right.
I was going to miss it, and we would have a Ohio State run back of us getting the. Sorry,
we're even against Michigan, dude.
Yeah,
keep going.
But so we have to go to OT again, and I was like, whoa, Tate Ratledge just clearly admitted on his podcast that we used all the 2-point plays for the year and that singular overtime with Georgia Tech. And so let's end it early. We forced a field goal, which is massive, massive, massive. And I being able to, I always, if I was a coach, I'm deferring every time in overtime. I'm going on defense first. Because that pressure of having to score first, and then if you don't, you're screwed it's so much more pressure than just trying to stand up. And then you get the ball anyway is so much better. And then we just walk up. Dude, also, we're talking about targeting. Are you kidding me? Where Gunnar Stockton gets decapitated, literally loses consciousness.
So,
you can see his legs go limp.
I think they were right though. Like
and all the bullshit that we have called targeting, though.
No, I agree with you on that. Yeah,
and that's when we let go. Are you kidding me?
But that was like he's running the ball, he's running up the middle, and the guy came in. The guy didn't lead with the crown. Like it's a legitimate no targeting. But you're right. Like there are some other ones where I'm like, what the hell are y'all looking at? Why are you calling that targeting? But anyway, but he does. But the cool part about that is his getting his helmet knocked off allowed for this special moment where Beck with one arm gets to hand off the game winner.
Listen, and walk it off, which is awesome. And I love that we got to walk it off against Texas. We don't go to more overtimes.
2 weeks in a row, y'all do that. Run it right up the middle for the walk-off.
It works with Frazier up the middle. I'm telling you, ETN around the outside and Frazier up the middle is what we need to be doing because that's the way they run the ball. That's a running style. Frazier is north-south, and ETN's you want to get at the outside kind of guy. All in all, I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I feel like we struggled so mightily, and I don't think Quinn Ewers was really playing his best stuff. I don't know where his ceiling is.
I heard from a Texas fan that Quinn Ewers is broken up over some girl or some bullshit.
I know he has a bad leg.
He's got a bad ankle too. He's got
a bad ankle, but they did a good job of selling that cast or his brace as to why it shouldn't affect him because of this inventor, and they had that nice plug for the people that created
and just
it.
put Arch in. If you're really worried about it, why not? Like, if you're Texas and you have a playoff spot locked up, I'm shocked they didn't just put Arch in and see what happened.
I think it's because Steve Sarkisian is like the Ryan Day, James Franklin of the SEC right now, and
he's also soft. Games. That was the softest thing. I was legitimately angry at the TV, and I screamed at the TV. I was like, that's all you have to say. Not, oh, my tight end dropped a wide open pass. Oh, my QB's been overthrowing my players. None of that. When Georgia gets held all the goddamn time in the SEC, all the goddamn time.
Here's the thing that's crazy about that. They
could have called
complaining about holding. Y'all had 55 yards at halftime. What is he complaining about? What's the holding doing for you? Nothing.
Yes.
Like you couldn't move the ball in the first half and he's complaining about holding. It reminds me of when LSU played Oklahoma when Bob Stoops was the coach back in 2003 for the national championship. They're interviewing him at halftime, going into the halftime locker room. We're up like 14-7, I think. And they ask him about, because LSU had the best, I think, scoring defense or total defense, one of them. And Oklahoma had the best defense under the other category, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. They're two great defenses. But the reporter dared to ask Bob Stoops, how are you, combating this number one defense? And he's like, number one scoring defense. We have the number one total defense. I'm like, bro, your focus is in the wrong place right now, bro. Like,
Sark was off.
You really have got to go back to the locker room and work on with and of course LSU, ended up winning the game and beating.
They mollywopped them, didn't they?
Well, it was 21-14, but it was like it was never. It was just the
I
Jason
thought
White
the end of
was
that game, I thought they blew out Bob Stoops. I thought it was like, or was that
no.
USC that
That
did
was
that to
USC.
him?
That
Okay.
USC did that. That was when Josh Heupel actually was the coach at. I mean the quarterback at Oklahoma. Um. So
Sark,
yeah,
that
that
was the
was
softest thing I've
Jason.
ever
Jason White
seen.
was the year before that,
Yeah,
or
Sark
2 years
being
before
soft
that.
at half. His like okay,
Mhm.
but the crazy part is like they could have called it even more than what they were doing.
Mhm.
And Texas was playing like shockingly undisciplined
Yeah.
in that game. And I mean, there could have been some stuff on us. They called a couple penalties on us, and that's not our fault. Like when you play, like we've been screwed 10 times over by the refs when we play Alabama. So I don't know where that lands for us. It's said and done. That's a W. Horns down. Let's talk about the bracket.
Let's get into it. Bracket time. Here we go. All right. So they revealed the bracket earlier today, and you see it right in that top left corner. Um, Tennessee, Ohio State. We're not going to talk about that one right now. No, we're going to. Okay, we'll go ahead and do it. We'll
No, we
indulge
can
here.
save that for later. We
We
could
can save it
do
for
That's
the
the
later.
best
Okay. All
one.
right.
let's do the Indiana State
But
Championship.
yeah, so let's start off with we have our top 4 seeds with the buys. You've got Oregon, Arizona State, the 1 and the 4, and then Georgia and Boise State, the 2 and the 3. It's kind of cool. I want to just take a step back and take this moment to just appreciate what we
Mm-hmm.
have, where we get to look at this bracket just like an NCAA tournament bracket and be
Yes.
like, oh man, look, so like Georgia, Boise State could meet up, or it could be Notre Dame, Georgia, and maybe Notre Dame gets past them. Maybe Penn State. Who knows? Maybe SMU beats Penn State. There's so many possibilities. I love seeing this because what's been really frustrating up until this point, and we still have a little bit of it because I still believe that like there's some teams that have a legitimate gripe that like I think Alabama could win this whole thing. I think Ole Miss could win this whole thing. They'd have to get like have some things go their way, maybe have the right path and get through their South Carolina too. Because there's a lot of times where you see in the NCAA tournament bracket where like a 6 seed wins the whole thing, and that's 6 out of like 4 brackets.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually like a 24th seed in a bracket this size. This is a team that's not even allowed into the thing. So I like the fact that now we're not just doing this. Okay, it's just these 2 teams, or it's just these 4 teams, and these other teams get excluded because what we were talking about before is I think people had the wrong impression that they thought that some of the teams that got in before that probably shouldn't have been in a 4-team bracket meant that we shouldn't have the other teams that were excluded those years
Yeah.
allowed in, which is actually the opposite of what's true. Because like last year, Georgia probably could have won the whole thing, sitting on the outside looking in, because they played one bad game against Alabama in the SEC championship, and now you have this setup to where okay, number one, a lot more teams that are capable of winning it are now allowed into the field. But number two, the path to that championship ain't no cakewalk for anybody. I
Mm.
mean, you could make the argument that maybe Penn State had, but I don't know. Have you seen Penn State play against Boise State? Have
No.
we saw Penn State take Oregon to the brink week 1? Like I don't know. And they've been going through their whole schedule. Yeah, they've had some brushes with death, but they've kind of had the target on their back where everybody who plays Boise State, it's their Super Bowl
Yep.
And
because that's
nobody's
the
nobody's been able to stop Ashton Genty or
no
No,
Gentry.
not once.
Genty. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is he just passed Marcus Allen for the single season rushing on the single season rushing list. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, like with these playoff games coming up, where does that like he could technically, if you count all the yards he's going to get,
Mm-hmm.
could surpass Barry Sanders within these games.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting where they count that. And you're right, Boise State is a target on their back. They realize let's just load the box against Genty, and he still goes
Mm-hmm.
for 200 plus.
Yeah,
Like
and
that's
then
insane.
Maddox Madsen is a good quarterback, and they've got some good receivers on the outside. And the other thing is too, nobody even talks about this, but they're like number 3 in the country in sacking the quarterback. They actually have a good defense too. So, or at least a defense that has some dudes that can get after you and
Yeah.
create some pressure. So let's get right into it. Oh, look at this. Perfect timing. Our man Jeremiah Campana is here. welcome, Jeremiah.
Welcome. Thank you.
We have just entered into the bracket discussion, so thank you for joining us. We are going to get right into it. Our first matchup that I'm previewing, we're going to start with the I guess the widest margin matchup, and it's Clemson going on the road to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns. Texas 10.5 point favorites. That's the biggest spread of any of these games. And I did a little breakdown of just like strength on strength, weakness on weakness, whatever, rushing and passing, offense versus defense for every matchup, just to kind of see where we might see something that could provide an opportunity for somebody to take an advantage. Texas's rush offense not great. Clemson's rush defense not great. So no real advantage there. But Clemson not a great rush offense, but Texas actually has a top 13 rush defense. So there could be an advantage there. Clemson, as you saw last night with what they did with SMU, they've got some dudes on the outside that can make plays and get downfield. And Kate Klubnik, whether he's doing it with his legs or with his arm, is able to put up numbers. They're the 14th best pass offense in the country, but Texas has the number one pass defense in the country. And you saw a little bit of that last night. It was tough for Georgia to really get anything going through the air pretty much all game long last night. And then Texas has the number 12 pass offense. You didn't see that so much against Georgia, but Clemson's 69th best pass defense could provide an opportunity there for Texas to actually take an advantage. So I think the spread is maybe a little bit high, but I guess I could see it. I just don't know. Like, this is one of those matchups where I'm torn because on the one hand, like I want to root for the SEC schools, but we've talked about it before. Tyler and I don't really necessarily do that if it means that we can gain an advantage for our particular favorite schools by another SEC school losing. Like, I don't care. Screw you, Texas. Plus, you're kind of a fake SEC team. You just got here. You need to go sit in the corner. And I'm kind of rooting for the Dabo Swinney. We're not doing that transfer portal BS.
A little bit.
I want that model to succeed on a high level because I'm really honestly kind of sick of watching 20 dudes from every school leave the program and go somewhere else every single year. And some of it I get because if you're like in a logjam, there's 3 dudes ahead of you and nobody's leaving anytime soon. You thought somebody was going pro, but they don't. They stay for their senior year. I get it. Like what Joe Burrow did, where when he left because they had given the job to Dwayne Haskins, and he's like, I got to go somewhere because I'm never going to play if I don't do something. And it worked out really well for him. But then there's other stuff where you see dudes that are just like that. Some of this stuff, like, it's almost like dudes have a problem and you don't even want them on your roster. So, and then you have the Ole Miss shit where like Walter Nolan and all those dudes, Trey Amos and everybody is just like mercenaries going team to team. So I kind of like the idea of Dabo Swinney letting this model run and showing everybody that you can win with just your dudes that you recruited out of high school. How do you guys see this matchup? We'll start with Drew, since you haven't really gotten to talk much today.
Oh, it's all right. I talk too much anyway. I'm really leaning towards Clemson, man. I think Texas, again, man, they the best team, the highest ranked team they beat was Michigan this year. They seem to catch. We've discussed it privately a bunch. Like, Texas doesn't play. They didn't really play a bunch of tough teams. I mean, except for Georgia. I mean, obviously
Texas A&M, yeah.
Texas A&M was probably the best team in Georgia that they played, and I mean, we all kind of thought Arkansas was going to pull off an upset. Florida didn't really start turning it on until after the Texas loss.
Well, they were playing without their starting quarterback in that game. GJ Langley got hurt. Yeah, so that's like he got hurt against Georgia the week before, and so the dude who beat LSU and Ole Miss back to back was hurt and missed the entire Texas game, and they had a dude who transferred from Yale as their third string quarterback playing quarterback in that game. So yeah, it's I'm very much up in the air on like who is the real Texas, because we haven't seen them like actually, except for that game against Texas A&M, which was a home game, but it actually was on the road. It was at College Station. Yeah, it was at Kyle Field. That's a big deal. Like, winning there in the barn, like, that's an old rivalry, the bonfire game. And that was for the SEC championship berth. So like that's their big, to me, that's their signature win. And it's not a bad one, but again, it wasn't like they scored 17 points and they turned the ball over in the red zone a couple of times. So I don't know. It's it's still kind of an unanswered question.
The thing with Clemson too, which is kind of like they did just lose a close game to South Carolina, but then I don't know, they seem like they started putting it together after they got their asses kicked by Georgia. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. Dabo Swinney seems pretty hungry to come back ever since the whooping the Buckeyes gave them in 2020. This is their first playoff berth since. So I don't know. Right off the rip, I mean, I'm leaning Clemson mainly also because I'm tired of all the hype around Texas, so I just want to see them lose. I have a lot of bias.
I just like watching Matthew McConaughey's face when they lose. It's really funny.
And also, I think Sarkisian's super overrated. I've been saying this for a while. I remember when they hired him and everyone's making a big deal. I remember the playoff game against Washington. Everyone thought they were going to win, and they were just foaming at the mouth about
They should have, and they choked.
That was an electric game, though. Oh my god!
Yeah. And they choked.
I mean,
they had the ball.
They should have, but they didn't look that good.
Yeah.
And you're talking about
they caught Bama. They beat Bama early on before Bama really clicked.
Well, that was before Jalen Milroe really got off and going. They actually benched Milroe after that game.
Yeah. Like he got benched after that game for a couple games. So I just think that Sarkisian's overrated. They want to talk about how big of an offensive mind he is, but honestly, he's a more polished off James Franklin, seems to choke in big games. So I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, they haven't beat any. I mean, the best thing they have going for them, Texas, in this game is that Clemson isn't a top 10 opponent.
Because that's their kryptonite.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Jeremiah, where do you find on this matchup?
Oh, I don't know, man. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Clemson football this year, but I do know that Texas is only their secondary has only allowed 4 passing scores all season long. I can see Texas 35-38, Clemson 20. In this game, I think Dabo is lucky to be in this situation, considering he doesn't want to get on the whole NIL recruiting bandwagon here. He wants to stay old school, and I think that's part of the reason why we haven't seen Clemson in the playoffs in some years, because they can't recruit anybody because Dabo doesn't want to go along with how things are done now. So, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a close game and Clemson pulled the upset, but I see Texas pulling away here.
Tyler?
Yeah, and I think
you beat these guys twice. Like
talking about you talk about that game against Washington, you could possibly argue that Texas team that played against Washington might even be better than the one that's playing right now. You could argue for Tavondre Sweat, and you could argue for the pass rush that Texas lost to the draft, and you could argue for McKinney, and you could argue for a couple of these guys who are no longer with Texas. I know that they beat up the O-line to play in the SEC.
Got Isaiah Bond.
They lost. They got Isaiah Bond. So he hasn't even. It's crazy. Is they got Bond, but he's not even been the dude. Like it's been Golden, it's been Helm, it's been Blue, it's been Wisner. Is that the running back?
Yeah.
And so I think Dabo has what Dabo has over Sark is the playoff preparation and have been here and has won national championships in this era. And I know that's with you happen to fall into 2-3 generational quarterbacks in a row to do that. But I don't know. It's in Austin, which is, I think protects Texas just a little bit as opposed to being in the fake Death Valley. I don't know. I think I can see Clemson covering and losing this game. In this 10, if it stays 10.5, I could see a Clemson cover and a loss. Just maybe Texas out physicaling them up front. And with that, if Ewers can be what Ewers we've seen him to be at times, I think I can take it. I like Clemson to cover here, and but Texas to win.
Yeah, so the one thing that's always interesting with this stuff, I mean, yeah, so you have more time to prepare. Both teams are going to have, like almost 3 weeks. I get like, was it like 2.5 weeks? I think it's the games
Two.
are the
Yeah, about
21st. Yeah, 21st.
Yeah.
So, more time to
Finally get
prepare,
good
but
games before Christmas.
yeah, I know,
Mhm.
right? The and the other thing is that I'm still waiting to see how much the chemistry is impacted by some of these teams that are kind of like these mercenary groups. Um, when you get into these playoff type situations, because in the middle of the season, there's you're playing Mississippi State. You can kind of get away with certain things that you can't necessarily get away with in the playoffs, like they couldn't get away with Georgia. And you saw it with Ole Miss. Ole Miss brought in all these guys. They had like one of the highest paid, and even Ohio State. When you have like the highest paid rosters in the country, and then trying to get it all to gel together,
Mhm.
and then you stub your toe, with Ohio State, stub your toe in Eugene, and then really stub your toe at home last week against Michigan, and then Ole Miss loses at home to Kentucky, and then loses in overtime to LSU, and then loses to Florida on the road, and they've got like all these dudes, and it's like having all the guys that sometimes the sum of all the parts is not quite like the whole that Clemson is, because Clemson, it's all these dudes who are there because they believe in Dabo Sweeney and
Mhm.
they want to be part of this program. And I think in this type of atmosphere in the playoffs, and even like Austin doesn't seem to be the huge advantage maybe that some other places are, because you guys were up 23-0 at halftime in
Better watch
Austin.
out for flying water bottles, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, right, for sure, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, I just wonder. I don't know. I'm kind of with you. Like, I would at least expect
A
Clemson to
cover.
cover, and I'm
I
not.
could
I
see.
may even be with Drew that I think they could pull this off.
I could see if Clemson throws the first punch. I think we
Hmm.
have ourselves a live dog. I think Clemson is absolutely live in this game, like no doubt about it. Like it's hard to say because Alabama, not Alabama, Jesus. Well, they did it too, but Texas walks into Nashville and barely escapes. Like Texas
Hmm.
walks into Fayetteville and barely escapes. How do we
Hmm.
compare Clemson and Vanderbilt and Arkansas? I don't know.
Favorably, yeah,
Favorably,
favorably.
right? Like I think,
Hmm.
and you talk about Dabo and the buy-in. I could easily can like when push comes to shove. I could see Clemson winning this game. I would
Hmm.
actually like Clemson to win this game because they would realize that we hyped up Texas for nothing.
Right.
I had that upset alert against Fayetteville, but Arkansas didn't fumble when they had the opportunity to close the gap.
Yeah.
I don't think that Clemson's going to make the mistakes that Texas has been able to capitalize on against lesser teams.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I definitely think that for sure. I feel confident in the fact that that Clemson covers.
Well, I don't know what Jeremiah did, but he is. I don't know. He's like a weatherman right now. He's all green screen. Um, Jeremiah, are you still there? I don't hear him. I definitely don't see him. All right, I'm going to remove him real quick, and if I see him glitch back into the frame, I will put him back up. So the next matchup we have is this one's. I, I'm kind of disappointed. I'm not going to lie. SMU going to Happy Valley ain't the same as somebody else going to
I
Happy
know.
Valley.
I
Like
wanted
I
like
really wanted it
Tennessee.
to be like a legit, like, send Notre Dame there or
Hmm.
send Tennessee there, or you know what I mean. Somebody big. Send somebody big to
I was
Happy
hoping to even
Valley.
see Clemson there. I just
That
Yeah,
would
had,
have been
Clemson
electric too.
and
yeah.
SMU Texas would have been a crazy matchup.
I thought that
Hmm.
would have been exciting too. But I get why
Yeah.
they did it. I mean, they want to set. I mean,
Yeah. Well, they're already doing the Notre Dame Indiana thing. So like you can have a Texas
keep the
state
state
championship too.
championship.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Why not?
keep the
Um
state championships going.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, Jeremiah's back. So let's keep it going. But yeah, so SMU goes on the road to Happy Valley. I'm sure this is going to be a whiteout. I can't imagine James Franklin not taking the opportunity to make this a whiteout. But who knows? He didn't do it against was it Ohio State that they didn't do the
He
whiteout?
only does it in games he thinks he can win. He's soft. I love the whiteout atmosphere is the greatest thing I've ever been a part of. I've been in it. against Michigan. But I feel like lately, and I think also a lot of it has to do with the stupid big noon kickoff nonsense that Fox has done. It's really ruined the whiteout because I feel like they like to have the whiteout at night. And Penn State played Ohio State during the day. So I don't know. But they should white it out. They need to. They have to.
So I don't know who Colonel Cadmium is, but he says, isn't it true that the Tennessee OSU game is the only one worth watching? No.
No.
We're going
The
to get
best
into that a
one,
little bit more.
for sure.
And said it's not worth a whiteout.
It is a night game though, which is pretty awesome.
It's
Is
a
Penn
night
State
game.
SMU a night
Happy
game?
Valley.
It's going to be crazy. And SMU. All right, so let's get into the matchup here. So you got the number 16 rush offense at with Penn State against the number 8 rush defense. Now, take that with the grain of salt. That is,
That's a noon
SMU
game.
playing in the ACC. But I will say, like, I kind of thought, oh no, the ACC's trash. And then I looked and I'm like, oh damn, like Louisville is actually like one of the top 15 teams in the country in terms of like the whatever their little strength rankings that they put together. It's ESPN, so I don't necessarily trust it. I think they had Oregon 6th in FPI, so I wonder like what the hell is FPI if Oregon is 6th? That's kind of retarded. Like what metrics, what measurements are you doing that the only undefeated team in all of college football is number 6 in your rankings? So I'll just put that grain of salt out there. So then SMU's rush offense, not great. Middle of the pack, 69th. Penn State's rush defense is really good, number 11 in the country. You go to SMU, their passing offense, that's where they've really gotten it done, especially since the Jennings or whatever has been the quarterback. It's a whole different offense now. Number 18, Penn State's number 12th in the country in pass offense. But SMU, Jeremiah, you saw, I sent the video last night. I don't know who number 1 thought he was guarding for SMU against Clemson, but he got turned around so bad. Like I swear I could have guarded this guy better than he did, or I definitely could have gotten open on this kid. So Penn State and Drew Aller, not a great pass offense.
No,
but I think they can. I think they can put some numbers up on this pass defense of SMU.
They had
if
sparks
SMU
last night, man.
yeah. If SMU
Drew
allows
Aller
Penn State to go off in the air, that's just going to be sad. They win the game if that happens because they already got a good rush offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Singleton and what's the other kid's name? And then you got Tyler Warren, who's like this Cam Scattaboo, whatever Swiss Army knife, you know.
I was just trying to see what year is Drew Aller a true sophomore?
I think so.
I think that's like one of the biggest issues is he makes like no, this is third. This is his third season.
Okay.
But I don't know, he makes a lot of like kind of young quarterback mistakes. Last year they didn't really trust him, so he didn't really get to make a lot of decisions. Last night he definitely cost Penn State the game. They don't have that pick 6, they win that game.
Yeah.
And then it's a tie, but then I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. If they do something with that possession, it could, it's a
if they just would have ran the ball. I think they were actually in that. That was probably the best I've seen Penn State play.
Agreed.
Like
1,000%.
Like getting back. Yeah, I was pretty impressed. But I think Oregon has caught a lot of teams off guard if they can turn it on early. But if you can, I think when I saw him playing Wisconsin and it was that close. And I don't know if Luke Fickell's going to have a job there much longer.
Yeah,
if he doesn't turn it around. But it was like, when they were there, and it was like, okay, they're not as good. OSU really should have beat them, but OSU really didn't play very well that game.
Yeah.
But hats off to Oregon. I don't know. I think Penn State. I mean, again, I think the best thing that Penn State has going into this game is SMU is not a top 10 team. So I think Penn State does fine. I think they win team, and I think they pull it out. I think SMU. For a while there when they were down 24-0, I thought Clemson was going to run away with it.
Dude, same. I couldn't even believe it. I was shocked. I mean, last night for Penn State, Oregon, like Oregon did a phenomenal job at just keeping Penn State at arm's length, even when they would kind of make it close and they score a touchdown. Tez Johnson is a dog, man. Dylan Gabriel, phenomenal execution on the offensive side of the ball. It's just like whenever you think you have momentum, Oregon just would suck the life right back out of the Penn State defense. And, also, by the way, refs were absolutely just, there was the most egregious missed calls. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't rest on that being why you lost, because you then got the opportunity to tie the game up late and then throw the ball away. And I don't know. Like, I'm trying to just think about what in James Franklin's mind. So let's go for 2 right now. Let's go for 2
it's
here.
not just that.
Like, hey guys, I'm ballsy. Look at me.
reverse.
And it didn't even matter.
It's a
It was
terrible.
stupid.
It's a terrible decision to go for 2. But worse than the decision to go for 2
the play
was the
call.
play that they called. What the hell? Tyler Warren rolling to his left to throw the ball across his body.
Top 10 team or not, never underestimate James Franklin's ability to blow it in a big moment. So
Stupid. You could have you didn't need to do that.
All right, so real quick before we move on to the next matchup, because I do want to talk about Oregon real quick. In the context of Penn State, because we talked about how Penn State looked as good as they have looked. And Drew, I think you're right. I think Ohio State should have beaten Oregon. I love Dan Lanning, and I love his attitude. I love all the stuff. I love the pregame, the videos that they do, and all that stuff, and all their different little things of how to block out the noise and whatever else. And I loved his attitude today when they were asking him about this idea that like Penn State has a easier path than they do, and he's like, "Great, what an opportunity! What an opportunity to go prove ourselves." You know what I mean? Like he doesn't. There's so much of this other stuff like Sarkisian, like we talked about, complaining about the holding penalties when you've held Georgia to 56 yards and you're still only up by a field goal. Like, that's your fault, bro. It's not, what are you talking about? And then like the stuff with the SMU coach whining and complaining before the game, like go win the game and shut up. Anyway, I love his attitude, but I will say this. I think there's a possibility that we have maybe like overemphasized like don't get me wrong. I love their physicality. They've got great skill players. Dylan Gabriel's playing great. But look at this schedule that Oregon has played. Idaho, Boise State, they won by a field goal, okay? Like, that's one of their big wins is they beat Boise State. But Boise State at the time was unranked. And now we've seen what Boise State is since then. They beat Oregon State, who's terrible. UCLA, who at that time was terrible. UCLA finally started putting it together the last half of the season. Michigan State, terrible. They beat you guys in Eugene, and it took Will Howard sliding for no reason. Purdue is probably one of the worst teams in college football. They beat Illinois. They beat them 38-9, and Illinois is a good team, and we're going to see them. They're playing in a bowl game against, I think it's
Florida, right? No,
they play. I think did they play South Carolina?
South Carolina, yes.
South Carolina, yeah, in the Citrus Bowl. So that's actually a good matchup where that'll be a good SEC Big Ten, depending on who actually plays in that game.
That's true. No, keep going. I was going to say
but anyway,
Big Ten
they won. They blew out Michigan at Michigan. That's good. But so far, what I'm looking at is Boise State, Michigan, and Illinois. That's their big until last night. Maryland, Wisconsin. Now the win at Wisconsin, that was a tough one. Tyler and I actually looked at that one as a very possible trap game upset kind of deal, because Wisconsin was playing well at the time and they actually nearly got it done. But Washington hasn't been good. I don't know. It's just I look at it and I'm like, man, are we giving Oregon the benefit of the doubt, despite the fact that they didn't have to play Penn State in the regular season? They didn't have to play Indiana in the regular season. They got to go through. They only had to play you guys to get to the Big Ten championship game of the teams that were contending for it. Whereas you guys played Penn State and Indiana and them.
And Michigan.
It's
and Nebraska when Nebraska was still not terrible.
Yeah. So I wonder, is Oregon actually the best team in the Big Ten, or is it Ohio State, or is it maybe Penn State, if you could somehow replace James Franklin's brain with somebody who has balls.
The most annoying part is that Ohio State has the best roster in the Big Ten about the country, and yet Oregon is the undefeated. You can't deny the only undefeated team in the FBS to be the number one team in the country.
Right.
I mean, yes, Ohio State went to Austin, and Will Howard decided to. By the way, Kyle McCord to Will Howard's most lateral move in the history of lateral moves.
I still like Will Howard better, man. I think
that's fine. That's totally fine. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think skill wise, you're right. I think person wise, I think Will Howard's probably a better person.
That's also fair.
Yeah.
But like from what I've seen, it feels very like, and I think that it's crazy that Will Howard has arguably a better cast than
Yeah.
McCord did.
Well,
Are you
he
saying that?
also
Outside
Are
of
you
Marvin
saying Will
Harrison
Howard
Jr.
would not have said "You're welcome, Clemson"?
Yeah, that's crazy. I love that
What
move.
were you saying, Drew? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say Will Howard, he at least has won a championship. Like he won a Big 12
Big
championship
12.
game. Yeah, I mean, and that's not
And that was
Will
that was a
Howard
good
still
that was a big one because that was against a really good TCU team.
That was that was a massive. That would have almost changed the entire playoff in one game when he won.
Yeah,
that.
and the thing with Will Howard too is I think he's got a lot to I think the issue is he's like a dude who probably plays better when he can be more free-handed and play.
They just don't
Eh,
give him the opportunities. Like
No,
these guys-
and we'll talk about it. I mean, Ryan Day really I mean, we'll see. I mean, his butthole seemed pretty puckered up today, like in a good way, not like in the way when we lost to Michigan. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, I trust Will Howard a lot more than I trust Kyle McCord because I mean, like you got to remember, yeah, Kyle McCord really helped pretty much save us a home game with beating Miami, but we're talking about the same guy that threw 3 pick sixes in a game earlier to Pitt. Like I don't know if you guys saw that game. He threw 5 picks in that game.
Oh, I know.
It was
Multiple pick
terrible.
sixes. And
Yeah,
as far
and
as this game is concerned, I think we have Penn State running away.
Penn State. Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
They should.
I think
They
so.
should.
They should.
I have Penn State running away. If they show
Well-
up, I was astonished. They actually fed Kate Strawn and Singleton appropriately, and they used Tyler Warren not as like the get the ball every time kind of guy. And I think that defensively, like they were able to stifle Oregon at times. I think that Oregon has that powerful of an offense. I have Penn State running away at home here.
Unless SMU catches momentum and they poop themselves. That's a
true.
possibility.
Yeah. Well, so the only thing I'll say, like I all top 10 jokes aside, I mean they are not in the top 10, so they've got that going for them. But no, seriously, like the one thing, the weather is supposed to be cold, possibly snowing. I mean, we'll see. Like by that time of year, like who knows what kind of cold fronts and everything. We're still a couple of weeks out, so in a week or so, we'll be able to better forecast what the weather's really going to be like.
60 degrees here today after being 21 all week. So we'll see what it's like.
Right.
I'm sure it's not that different. I mean, what's the temperature right now in Pennsylvania, Tyler?
It'll be like the first day of winter. So
warm,
who knows what's
shockingly
actually
warm today. It's been frigid. It's been really cold. I mean,
21
Pennsylvania. It was like in the 20s the past
same with bad wind chill.
And then today it was like 60 for no reason, and now it's cold again.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be 50 in the 50s all week this week.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, it's the 21st. We'll see. It is Ohio.
Happy Valley's also a wind tunnel. I don't know how it's possible as big as that stadium is. Like,
and that stadium's east-west, not north-south.
That shit whips through there.
Wait, are they one of the few stadiums that does not have a south end zone? Damn.
Correct. There's no south end zone in Happy Valley.
Wow, man, it must suck.
Why it's so hard to play there
where the sun's setting in your eyes.
Yeah,
and you're
right.
Trying to throw the ball, trying to catch a downfield pass, and like you look right into the sun.
Thankfully,
well, anyway, all right.
it's a
So
noon game.
the point is, it's probably gonna be very cold. Wait, I thought you said it's supposed to be a night game. Right?
No,
it's a noon game.
No.
Noon.
Oh, it's a noon game.
We wish it was a night game.
Yeah, we wish it was a night game for the whiteout.
Noon, and then Indiana Notre Dame's the 3:30.
The 3. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, it's still
they're a night game. They're 8 p.m.
Cold.
Indiana Notre Dame's 8 p.m. Ohio State.
Yeah. So cold, frozen ground, possibly raining or sleeting or who knows what kind of like precipitation. Right. That is not like if you look at SMU, they are a team that is practically built to play on turf indoors. So I really think that's advantage Penn State. So
yeah, I like Penn State here.
If it were in a different arena, a dome or something like that, maybe I would give SMU a chance, but I can't see Penn State blowing this one. James Franklin jokes aside. The battle for the Indiana State Championship. between Notre Dame and Indiana. 8.5-point favorite, Fighting Irish, and they bring the number 11 rush offense. But Indiana has the number 1 rush defense in the country. And then Indiana has the number 69 rushing offense, and Notre Dame's kind of mid at rush defense at number 44. Then Indiana's 33rd in pass offense. Notre Dame's number 3. Notre Dame, though, has the 96th best pass offense. This is where, if Notre Dame can't run the ball with Indiana's defense like it is, and Notre Dame has shown they're not they have to run the ball all year. That's what they've done. That's been their bread and butter, and they've really been they've been pounding some really bad teams into submission. Ever since that opening win against Texas A&M, they haven't played a very difficult schedule. Let's be
That held
honest.
up beautifully for them, though. That
No, it
winning
did.
at
It
Kyle
did.
Field at night.
Oh yeah,
I
for
want
sure.
the Northern Committee, the Big Ten Committee, to give us their takes here first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Whoever
tell
wants to
us
go
what you think
first.
about Indiana. I know, Drew, you said you think Indiana's legit, so let's
I
hear
think
some
Kurt
more about it.
Cignetti's legit. I think
Google it.
I think Kurt Cignetti has something to prove. The another good win is they beat USC and USC though Notre Dame, and USC is not a very good team, but they've played very well at home. Like they gave a lot of teams problems at home.
Penn
So
State, they gave,
they came back and beat Wisconsin when Wisconsin was up like 3 scores.
Mm-hmm.
So Notre Dame also, I mean, thankfully for Notre Dame, Army was good this year, which oddly enough,
the
had
conference champs.
Had Boise State lost, Army would actually probably potentially be in their spot coming in.
Crazy.
Well, no, I think UNLV would have taken the spot, honestly, because UNLV
Oh,
was
probably,
20th,
yeah.
and Army was 24th, and Army didn't really move up much, and UNLV only dropped like 3 or 4 spots. So they're
Yeah, I think
Army
they were
and
playing
UNLV still ended up being like neck and neck, even though UNLV lost this weekend. So I think UNLV takes that spot if it's not for if Boise State had lost.
So
but they're still it's a good team though.
So I don't know, but if you look, I think they lost. USC only lost to Penn State and Notre Dame at home. They won all the other home games, and the Penn State game they only lost by 3 to Penn State, and they got blown out by Notre Dame. But
No, they didn't.
No, 14
Notre
points.
Dame.
Yeah,
Notre Dame. No, they did. They didn't. Out. So here's where I'll stand up, pound the table for USC in that game. USC is in the red zone and throws a 99-yard pick six.
Oh wow!
They were about to tie the game.
Yeah, they were.
Possibly
they had a
go for 2 and win it, and they threw a pick six with like a minute and a half left in the game.
Score,
and it was over.
They padded the stats right there at the end. Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, however, I think that these two teams match up better than we think because Indiana's rush defense and Notre Dame makes their money on Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard's feet. So I like the way that they match up. Jeremiah, how do you feel about the Big Ten, the Indiana State Championship, as we've been calling it?
Right. I don't know. I mean, the only good team Indiana played was us, and we spanked them pretty good. But I think everybody's right. I think this matchup is really good. I expect this to be one of the better games that we see, to be quite honest. I can see this coming down to the wire for sure.
Yeah, I love to show Indiana because they haven't done much. What have you done for me lately? Which is lose to Ohio State, not much else. Obviously, they go 10-1. Google me, Kurt Cignetti.
I mean, they were pretty dominant in Maryland.
Agreed. Like they have. I mean, shit. They beat the ever.
Oh wait, no, that was at home. That wasn't in Maryland. Never mind. But they did beat the shit out of a good Nebraska team at the time.
Nebraska,
gave y'all difficulties. So I don't know. I think that the ball. I mean, obviously y'all did handle Indiana, but the ball bounces a little bit differently. I think it's a closer game in Bloomington that afternoon. I think y'all still win that game. I think it's just closer, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I think that these teams match up. I hate Notre Dame with a burning passion. That's a personal thing. That's totally a personal thing.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, I have friends who I'm the only Georgia fan, and nobody cared for my entire childhood. Didn't know Georgia was a team until we got good. And then every time we're losing a game, I get text messages on the dot, and it's a whole thing. And they're all Notre Dame fans, and it's a whole thing. So I said, come to Papa. You get to win and play us. So I'm all for it. I think these teams match up great. It's can the Jeremiah Love and Ryan Leonard stand up to this Indiana defense? If so, they win. But you also we talked Curtis Rourke on the flip side. I don't know. I like this matchup a lot. It looks better. It is better than it looks. I'll say that. Like we see, it's the Indiana State championship, but it really is going to be a good game.
Yeah,
I think
no,
Indiana keeps it close, if not wins this game.
I
two
think
really good teams, good matchup of like strengths versus weaknesses, and just kind of seeing like how that stuff all shakes out. What did you have, Drew?
I was going to say, I think the public school upsets the private school.
Yeah, maybe.
I think Indiana definitely covers, but I think they upset. I think Curt Cignetti has like
His signature
one more
win.
win in him. I think, and I don't think Notre Dame's coach is as good as Indiana's coach.
Nah.
So, and because I mean, like if you look at Indiana's came in and pretty much Indiana came and took the Big Ten by storm with a bunch of players from
The Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah, well, it was mainly his old school James Madison.
JMU. And he
Yeah,
was
so
amazing there.
and so those guys have played together for a long time. Those coaches have coached together for a long time. I think they've already played in playoff situations. Being, Cignetti has experience from the FCS, and this is like just like Ryan Davis saying, this isn't really prepping for a bowl game. They got 2 weeks to prep for this game. So, and I like Indiana. I think Indiana, they don't have to travel far. There's really no big home field advantage. I mean, it might be loud at Notre Dame, but I don't know. I saw at least Indiana winning the first round of their playoff. So that's where I'm at. And I think an Indiana Georgia matchup could be interesting because I think Curt Cignetti wants to go back and coach against other ex-SEC or SEC coaches being an ex-SEC coach.
Yeah, that's fair.
There you
I
go.
like it. Don't
forget, everybody, while you're here, to like, to share, to subscribe, leave your comments.
Guys.
We're gonna get to the live comments here in the chat here in just a minute. We got one more game to go through, and it's the one that everybody's been waiting for.
It's
the reason you guys are here.
Jeremiah's going to show how he was eating a bunch of black pills before he came on the podcast.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
He can't stop eating black pills. The Doomer fan. You could tell he's a Cleveland Browns fan.
I have every reason to be one.
The Tennessee Volunteers travel to the Shoe to take on the Buckeyes. Your Buckeyes are 7-point favorites, and we've got Tennessee with the number 10 rush offense with Dylan Sampson getting it done, and a little leg work from Nico Iamaleava. They've got a really good rushing attack, really good up front in the trenches. But Ohio State's got that number 6 rush defense, so bring it, right? And then Ohio State's rush offense, not great, kind of middling with the number 53 attack in the country. Tennessee, though, has a great rush defense right there with Ohio State at number 9. And then Tennessee's pass offense has not been great this year, like not even middle of the pack. And Ohio State's pass defense has been incredible. I was looking at it. It's Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, 1, 2, 3 in pass defense this year, yards per game allowed. And then Ohio State, the number 35 pass offense against the number 10 pass defense in Tennessee. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. Like, can Tennessee run the ball against Ohio State? Because if they can, then it starts to take the crowd a little bit out of it, and it gives Tennessee a shot. If Tennessee can't run the ball against you guys, I don't know that Nico Iamaleava, a true freshman quarterback, is going to be able to, or not a true freshman, he's a redshirt freshman because he just played in the bowl game last year. That's all. That was his little cup of coffee. I don't know. I don't see them having Ryan Day jokes aside. Tennessee is in the top 10. So you know how that goes. So what do you guys think? Let's get into it. It's time for you to either doomsday it
You want
Drew,
Drew's positive spin first, or you want my negative spin?
No, we'll listen to Jeremiah. The world's falling apart. OSU stinks.
Let us hear it, boys. We'll shut
first, you got to wonder about. So this is, I mean, you have a actual major game coming up after a Michigan loss. So you got to wonder how deflated this team is still. Can they shake it off going into this game? We're missing 2 of our best offensive linemen. Have missed them. Our left tackle and our center. That has not helped Will Howard. much at all. So here's exactly what's going to happen in this game. Tennessee's going to be winning with Ohio State having to kick a field goal to win the game in the final minute. They're going to be driving down the field. They'll get to about the range of the kicker, maybe a little outside his range. He will kick and shank the ball. Ohio State loses at home. If you're a betting person, take the +7 on Tennessee. I don't have any faith in Ryan Day whatsoever in this game.
Jeez.
Damn.
Drew, it's worse than I thought it was going to be.
Oh no,
That
it's
was
not.
awful.
I mean, listen, this guy grew up loving the Browns. He probably still watches every game, and that's just how Browns Ohio
Hey,
State fans
Shout
are
out
now.
to Webster Slaughter.
All
For
right,
some
Drew.
reason,
Drew's not wrong either.
for
Spin
some
him the shit out of
reason,
this.
Ohio State fans, like, the biggest thing with the rivalry with Michigan forever, and there was like, growing up, there's a type of fan that's like, I don't care if we lose every game but Michigan every year. And those retards still exist, and they're still in there. And now they have a way louder voice. I'm not saying Jeremiah's one of them, because he definitely not. He just got very black pilled because he's having some childhood trauma from the John Cooper years that we're all dealing with. and at the same token, like, it feels a lot like 1995, where we had an undefeated team with Eddie George and Terry Glenn and Bobby Hoyne. We went to Michigan and got our asses kicked, except this time it was at home, and this time we're playing Tennessee again. But I'm gonna say this: so we've never been in this situation before. I was down at the Woody earlier for the press conference, and I'm used to hearing this bullshit from Ohio State's coaches and players, like, "Oh, we practiced hard, we did this." And today was quite a bit different. Like, it was we all saw the dumbfounded fucking Ryan Day wondering how his family was going to survive that night after they lost again to Michigan. Because I feel like since he lost in 2021 and experienced it for the first time, he did not understand, because he'd experienced a loss before at Ohio State, but not that loss.
Mm.
And it's like, it's definitely a mental thing for him. He puckered up. He didn't play free. The guys didn't. I mean, Tom Brady really kind of said it best when he's talking to old Colin Cowherd on Fox. And he was saying that, like, we didn't get the ball in the hands of our players. What Ryan Day did was he listened to everybody say, "Oh, your team's not tough. You can't run the ball in Michigan." So he ran the ball against their two best defensive tackles all game. And then when we actually threw the ball and got that ball in the hands of our talented players, we dominated Michigan, like, at the end of the second half. Then the first half, for some reason, we go back to the original game plan, which was really stupid, which was run up the middle constantly and then throw in obvious passing situations. And it wasn't our defense did everything they could to keep us in that game. Hats off to the defense. The interesting thing about, we're talking about mercenary teams like Ole Miss, and we're also talking about how the Buckeyes kind of just paid for a couple players this year. Most of the Buckeyes have a ton of receivers that have played together, or seniors that have played together as a team for a while. It's easy to take the doomsday pill. I was still on the doomsday pill up until the playoff came out, and I'm like, you know what? I'm back in it. Ryan Day made some interesting
Like a moth
points.
to a flame, right?
Yeah, like, he made some interesting things. What he said today was, like, we have to play free. We can't be playing with the fear of what happens if we lose. And
That's
I think
good to hear.
the nice thing with this, when you look at the bracket too, this is the ultimate road to redemption for Ryan Day. Your first game is against Tennessee. Now, we all know Ohio State, which for some reason Chad doesn't throw this in our face enough. Traditionally one of the best teams in the Big Ten has won one SEC game ever, and that was in 2015 or 14 when we beat Alabama in the playoff.
Yeah.
That's the only win we have over the SEC ever. So if we go, this is
That's not true. That's not true. We beat Arkansas.
If we count Texas A&M when they weren't in the SEC, who else did we beat?
Arkansas.
Arkansas. All right, so we have 2 wins, 3 if we count the Texas A&M game.
Starting to sound like Texas now.
Look at that. Did you see that? I pulled some white pill out of Jeremiah there, because he said, well, actually, that is not true, Drew. So I got actually there by Jeremiah. That's very good. That's a very good sign. So we got Tennessee here. Actually, can I share my screen? And maybe I can. Oh, no. We got it right here. So we got Tennessee, and then we go to Oregon, which.
Can I share this screen with you?
What is that?
That's your quarterback getting destroyed in the national championship.
Oh yeah, the game we didn't belong in that we hung in tough. That was surprising. The
Shout out to
team,
Beanie Wells
Jim
for that one
Tressel's
run.
best team ever gets blown out against Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
And then the
when
next
your
year we're
linebacker's
like,
name is laryngitis, you're gonna cough it up. It's just what naturally happens,
all right. So then we got Oregon, which embarrassingly, the Big Ten gave up. And I in my family chat, some of my uncles actually believed that we would get a better seeding with teams losing. I'm like, no, man, they already said they're not. Like, just root for Penn State to win, root for the conference to defend itself. Dan Lanning's been talking shit all season, and he's been backing it up. And it was close, and it didn't happen. So now we get to beat the Big Ten champion that we should have played last night, except we choked against Michigan. And I think so at that point, if Ryan Day beats Tennessee, and then he can manage to beat Oregon, and now he's in the playoff against whoever, it doesn't matter. Once he gets to that point, he's gotten a lot of heat off his seat. He can focus. So I think like Ryan Day sees his path of redemption. Ryan Day kind of hinted at it today in the press conference. I'm going to believe in him. I mean, listen, if he fucking loses at home to Tennessee, I'm going to be way fucking worse than Jeremiah with Doomsday Pill. I probably won't even watch the Buckeyes. I won't cover them anymore. I'll give up on all this shit because it takes up a lot of my time that I could be spending on my business, my family, so much stuff. But here I am getting credentialed because I think it's cool. And so what I'm saying is I think that Tennessee, if it's cold, Tennessee isn't going to be ready. Now, the one thing is Tennessee, I mean, they're better Michigan.
Well, it does get cold in Tennessee.
If we play Tennessee like we play Michigan, it is going to be embarrassing.
No, they are. You're right there. They like the better running game, better quarterback play, more dynamic receivers,
better defensive
line, and better definitely better secondary. And so I think it's gonna be. You're gonna have to bring your lunch pail to that game. It's not gonna be a cakewalk. And like I said, because of what Tennessee's strength is with Dylan Sampson running the ball and them being committed to that, and Josh Heupel being committed to running the ball, if you can't consistently stop them and they're picking up 4 or 5 yards on first down, it's gonna be tough because then your crowd is going to be a little quieter. It's going to give them a little bit more comfort in everything. Kind of falls apart for an away team when you get behind the sticks and the crowd rises up and your offensive line can't hear the snap count.
Yeah,
because now every defensive lineman gets the same break off of the snap that you do.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Jeremiah, that you didn't hear. So Tennessee only gets 3,500 tickets. That's it. The rest is Ohio State. So if Ohio State can show up, and the other thing too is look how fired up they were to play Georgia in Georgia. Now we're playing Tennessee in Ohio, like at the Horseshoe. So I think OSU is fired up. I think the seniors are fired up. We don't have to worry like what we worried about last year when we played Missouri with the transfer portal opening up. Now, certain guys did enter the portal, and Ryan Day said today, depending on, he said it's going to be like a player-by-player basis on who's going to get to play because like he understands why certain guys are leaving, and he basically said it's a player-by-player thing. I don't think it's a ton. He pretty much said he expects 15% to transfer out every year at this point with the way NIL is. And I think they're just kind of planning that. He also just said, this isn't a bowl game, it's a playoff game. He said they got finals this week. And then next week they're really going to practice. They're going to practice outside, hoping it's cold, so they're ready for the cold. But again, it's a night game too. Everybody's jacked about it being a night game at the at the Horseshoe. So I think like really this is like the opportunity for the Buckeyes to mesh and to get back on track. They are the most talented team. Ryan Day can be a good coach. We saw it in 2019, 2020. We saw it in like even 2021, 22. I mean, we've seen it, but it is like we say he loses in big games. And it's like, well, they're always usually playoff games and against Michigan. If they weren't losses to Michigan, we would be saying, man, he's a great coach. If he beat Michigan every year, we'd say, oh, he's great. We're close. We're getting there. This is the year. But because we lost to Michigan, the way we fucking just lost to Michigan, everyone's like, John Cooper 2.0. He needs fired.
It's not an invalid argument though. When
It's
you
really
think about
not.
it.
But there's 37 million
PTSD
reasons
you have to have.
There's 37 million reasons why he's not going to get fired.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's the same thing I said about Brian Kelly with losing to Alabama. It's like the same thing. It's like, it's the same. We have the same thing here. We fired a coach, Charlie McClendon back in the 80s or 70s, because he couldn't beat Alabama. Like we would go 10-1, 9-2, and we'd lose to Alabama. And they were just like, get the hell out of here. So
you just fired a coach that won the national title a couple years before.
Yeah, that's true. Now that was a different scenario. Like he was hitting on one of the board members' pregnant wives in the parking lot at a gas station. And
I did not hear about that.
He pulled up. She's pregnant. She's pumping gas. He's like, she's wearing like yoga pants or something, and he's like, "Hey, you look like you're in good shape. You look like you work out. You want to work out together?" She's like, "I'm married," and she's like, he says, "What's that got to do with me?" And then she's like,
that sounds like something he would say.
She calls her husband. She's like, "Why is our coach hitting on me?" Anyway, it was the whole thing.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, there's
that's
other
why he
stuff
doesn't
too.
have a job.
Yeah,
period.
yeah. He's lucky they let him get away with the $20 million that he got away with. I want
What
to
about
bring y'all's attention to this though.
Yeah.
So real quick, so there are 3 SEC teams in the bracket, right? So you got Texas and Tennessee on one side, but they wouldn't play each other until the semifinals. Then you have Georgia all the way on the other side of the bracket, and so theoretically, if all 3 SEC teams advance to the semis, you wouldn't have a matchup of the next 2 SEC teams until the finals. The Big Ten, however, y'all are going to be playing Oregon in the second round if you win. And then you've got Penn State. You got Penn State and Indiana on the other side of the bracket. But do you think it's possible that they could have found a way to not have 2 teams from the same, like have all 4 of the Big Ten teams in their own little quadrant so that there's a possibility they could meet? Or do you think it's just they seeded the teams, they did it, and it's just like whatever,
I think
shut up, stop whining?
I think they seeded it the way they wanted to.
I think
they were told to.
I think that OSU rematch with Oregon is big money. OSU coming beating Tennessee, then going to play Oregon in the Rose Bowl is big money. I think
it's the Rose Bowl. That's true. I forgot.
Rose Bowl, that's where they would have met back in the day,
right?
Anyway,
yeah. I think it's odd that Georgia doesn't get to play in the Peach Bowl.
I'll tell you why.
Arizona doesn't get to play in the Fiesta Bowl.
I'll tell you why. Because they didn't want a natural home game for any of them. They didn't want Arizona playing so close to Arizona, and they didn't want us playing close to Atlanta. That's why they flipped it. That's why we're playing in the Sugar Bowl. And that's why Arizona State is playing down in Atlanta or in the Peach Bowl.
But I'll say this. So just like Ohio State, Oregon is a natural Rose Bowl, Georgia Notre Dame is a natural Sugar Bowl too.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an old school Sugar Bowl type matchup.
Georgia, Indiana would be too.
So your guys' matchup, I think you guys are primed to run away against Tennessee. I really do. And that's I swear to God. I really do. I really do. I swear to you, and
I think so too.
Here's why: because of the defense that you all bring to the table. Iamaliava is young. He is prone to mistakes, and if he can go and lay an egg in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the middle of the year, he can 1,000% do that 10 times over. In the shoe in a night game. You guys are expecting
over 100,000 Buckeye fans.
Right.
He did it at Neyland Stadium against Alabama.
Exactly.
When they were winning and Milroe was turning the ball over. He was turning it right back over.
They had a lead against us in Athens, and he coughed it up. Like, you know that they're going to give the ball to Sampson. That's where they make their money. They give the ball to Sampson. That's where they're going to make their money. I think that the home crowd is going to rattle the shit out of him. I really do. You talk about the cold. Whoever the sideline reporter is at ESPN when they were playing down in Athens, live on TV said, I don't know. These guys are feeling pretty cold down here. That's what they're saying right now. It was 55 degrees in Athens, Georgia that night. Like that's what Tennessee's bench was doing. So I think the cold's going to play a factor just a little bit because you talk about the guys that the SEC gets. It's the guys from the South. It's the guys from California. It's the warm weather dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, football is football. You play it in condition, but that's a factor. I think the fact that Ohio State's defense can strangle the life out of people that they come up against is massive. And now it's just about getting the ball in the hands of the guys who can play, the Jeremiah Smiths of the world, who was on pace to have his freshman battle with Ryan Williams. That fell off. I think that y'all can
they're
run away
still
with
on
this.
pace with each other.
Right. I think y'all
they
can run
just
away
both
with
fell
this.
off.
I think y'all can run away with this. However, don't let Josh Heupel get hot because he can get his team into rhythm very quickly. I think that Ohio State can run away with this. I really do.
And I'll say this
and
about
that's from
Heupel
an
too.
SEC. I think SEC fuck everybody else type of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Ohio State can run away with this. Especially, I think that that Nico will crumble under the pressure.
You're too scared to say his last name.
Well, I was talking quickly. I didn't want to fuck up.
Iamaleava. Anyway, I'll say this about Heupel too, though. I don't think he necessarily has that stigma of not because he beat Alabama a couple of years ago, beat him again this year. You know, he can win the big games. He welcomes this kind of thing. Now, granted, Neyland Stadium played a role in both of those. In 2022, they beat Alabama in Neyland Stadium. This year, beat Alabama in Neyland Stadium. Did not do it last year. And then even when you guys played them a couple of years ago, they beat you, or you beat them pretty soundly when they had Hendon Hooker. But what Heupel does is like he seems to have that way of like finding whatever little advantage he can leverage and leveraging it. And I'm not saying that Ryan Day doesn't do that, but it's just like I've seen too many times where I don't understand how. Like, I don't understand how you didn't beat Michigan. I don't understand how when they throw
third
a
and long
pick,
when you're calling delay handoffs, it's usually a sign.
But I'm talking about like when they turn the ball over to you and then you still go into a shell. Like, no, that's your go for the jugular.
How about your defensive end gets an interception in the red zone?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, there was a lot of momentum things that Brian Day's ass cheeks puckered up.
Mm-hmm.
The whole team played not to lose instead of to win.
The cards
and Ryan Day loves third and longs.
I don't.
Is Ryan Day.
I think that I think this Ryan Day is the Ryan Day. After a loss to Michigan, man, he usually comes out and looks pretty good. Last year was the exception because we lost 20 players. Players that didn't play.
Yeah, that bowl games are not the same as this. That's one thing I do like about this is that we are going to get to really see
best teams
like the best teams going at it, and it's really going to be fun. I'm excited about it. So I want to get. So we had a couple of questions. I want to get into them. Tyler, I don't know if you can answer this at all, but is there any update on Carson Beck?
I was looking.
I know they were supposed to get the MRI. I know they were saying maybe results today, but it might be tomorrow.
It sounds like Kirby. The vibe is that Kirby didn't feel good about it. That's
I'm
guessing
it's a Brock Purdy ulnar nerves type situation.
Yes, for sure. It's exactly that. Like you talk about all of the stuff that runs through here.
He was trying to throw the. It wasn't just like he was dumping the ball off either.
He was trying
to throw a Hail Mary. He was trying to throw a Hail Mary. It's the worst case scenario.
I like Stockton. If we have to play him with preparation, I think that Stockton can flow right into our game plan if that's what we have to do.
One thing you got going for you is there's not a whole lot of film on him, so like you get to prepare him to do stuff that he was not doing last night.
Yeah, it was huge. Running QB draws, design QB draws. It just felt like, I'm telling you, I really felt like we dusted off a 2021 and 22 playbook that Monken must have left laying around before we went to coach the Ravens and said, let's just do this. And I think that's what we will end up doing. I feel I'm sad for Carson Beck that he's going to potentially miss the rest of the season. Am I sad for us? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your defense travels, and if they can rally around him like they did last night, because that was an easy place for that team to fold.
Yep. We were very worried coming out of
the fact that you actually found a way to like just dominate Texas in the second half. with that one long slant route that they took to the house, notwithstanding. I was impressed. So all right, so you that's there's your answer. Blind Squirrel Sports. We got you. Agree to disagree on
We
the whether it be a
appreciate you
factor or
being
not.
active in the chat, though.
Yeah,
We
for
love it.
sure, for sure. So all right, gentlemen. So that kind of is a wrap for our playoff discussion, but we still there's some other stuff we want to talk about. We do want to go into um like some of the bowl games that are coming up, but before we do that, I want to go into like the last little bit I'll say about the playoff is we gotta we gotta pour one out for these guys. Alabama, Miami, South Carolina, and Ole Miss all out. The first one in that list. Oh well, better luck next time, Gumps. Because
We don't miss you.
you
We
know
don't miss you.
you know what you know what you can't do if you want to go to the playoffs? Lose to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
You lost to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt in 5 years won 3 SEC games, and then they beat Bama. So that's why you're not in the
Beautiful.
playoff.
And then you
Bumps.
you put up a field goal against Oklahoma and Norman.
And then yes, and look, Oklahoma's playing way better now. But
True.
the immediately after they housed Alabama 24-3 in Norman, they came to Baton Rouge and got beat by 3 touchdowns. So I don't want to hear it. You don't deserve to be in the playoff. I'm glad the committee finally got something right. And also Miami was a fraud. We told y'all that. The only one that I feel bad about is I don't feel so bad about Ole Miss because you can't lose at home to Kentucky. You cannot
You
lose
can't
at home
choke in
to
the
Kentucky.
swamp. You had it in front of you in the swamp.
Yeah.
South Carolina is the one you feel bad about.
South Carolina,
Yes.
because South Carolina has won 6 in a row. They just beat Clemson in
They
Death
did.
Valley, who just won the ACC. They beat Texas A&M. A lot of the teams that we're talking about that like some of these other teams have as their pelt on the wall.
They
South
only lost to
Carolina,
top 20 teams too. They lost to LSU
yes.
when they were 16. Ole
Barely.
Miss when they were
They
12.
only have one bad loss, and it's Ole Miss. Ole Miss
They,
smacked them around. But
so here's the thing about that though. In the LSU game, Lenora Sellers got hurt right before halftime. Didn't play the whole second half. They probably beat us if he plays. I'm just being fully honest here. They probably beat us if he plays that whole game because they were giving us the business. They were up 17-0 to start that game. Okay, then they go and they cough that one up against Ole Miss 27-3. Sellers played, but he was not 100%. He was still hurt. He was still hurt when they played Alabama, lost by 2 in Tuscaloosa. Missed on a 2-point conversion where they overthrew the guy. Like, to me, the best body of work that got left out of this field is South Carolina. I'm not saying that in a 12-team field I think they deserve to be in because I like what the committee did where they said, like, we can't set this precedent of telling you we're going to have you at 8th SMU, but if you lose the championship game that you're playing in that nobody else is playing in, then we're going to move you behind some people who didn't play this weekend. That's stupid. And I'm glad they didn't do that. But what needs to happen is going forward, and I know Jeremiah, we're probably going to disagree on this point, but I think expanding the field is not a bad idea. I think that the bigger the field gets, and I yes, there is a limit,
Top
just like with
32,
the
man.
basketball thing. I don't know that you need to go 32. I think you could do like so they do the top 25 for the committee. Just do 24. The top 8 get buys, and the other 16 play 8 games to go into that environment. And then you make it to where like you get all the way down to Army and UNLV, and they're all included in this thing. And then you go into those rounds of the first few rounds, and then we get out of all this. The other thing that Tyler and I were talking about, there does need to be a better focus on like I don't know if they can force these teams to do this or what, but there's got to be more cross pollination where it can't just be like Alabama's playing Mercer and Western Kentucky and South Florida, and then their one big game is Wisconsin, and they're complaining about like, oh, I guess we shouldn't schedule any tough teams. Like Wisconsin was your one team.
Yeah.
And then Ole Miss, I think Liberty or somebody was like they're I don't remember who their toughest team that they played out of conference was. Like, no, you already weren't scheduling a difficult out of conference schedule. And I'm just gonna say, like, look at Georgia's schedule. which, by the way, the rankings are in for the end of the season. Do you know who had the #1 schedule in all of America? Georgia. After last night, Georgia ends up with the #1 schedule strength in the country. That's kind of crazy. Like, you think about, you have the #1 schedule strength, and you went 9-3, and they're like, I don't know, man. If they don't win, they would have been right there with Florida or something like,
We would have been out,
like
man.
that.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think it's very possible you would have been, especially with Carson Beck's injury situation.
Yeah, they would have,
But
dude. That's a whole different topic. That's a whole different
yeah, but
conversation. I think Jeremiah's got to skedaddle real quick here.
Okay.
All right, gents, I'm out. Go Bucks.
Peace, man.
Take Tennessee
Yes.
+7.
Well, there you go. There you go.
You said take Tennessee +7 again.
It was like a. Is that a gray pill, or is that like a yin yang pill? It was half white, half black.
I slowly pulled him through it.
You did. He will actually do.
I had to get him to well actually me. I knew I had to like trigger the well actually. Well, actually, we beat them 2 times.
It's in there.
Yeah,
That's right. He got it. But I'm just glad the committee got it right, and they kicked Alabama out.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare, but so it's just another feather in the cap of those of us who were telling all the Alabama fans, like, it ain't the same no more. Like, you literally had 2 coaches in your history that have been good. Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
Yeah, but like they don't. I mean, until Nick Saban, they didn't even have guys in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah.
No, because they had what's his nuts? Kenny Stabler, huh?
Is he in the NFL Hall of Fame?
I thought he was. And they had, no, Alabama had dudes.
Is Joe Montana not in the NFL Hall of Fame?
Alabama
not Joe Montana. Jesus Christ, Joe Namath. Jesus Christ.
Oh, Joe Namath went to Alabama.
Yeah.
All right. Well then.
Okay. Am I
yeah, I was gonna say, like, they had dudes. They had dudes.
Jesus
All right. Oh, yeah, they did.
Come on. Come on now.
Joe Namath not go to...
Let's not be crazy here. No, Bear Bryant was like the best college football coach in the history of the sport until Nick Saban, and then he was.
We talked about why.
They have these bookends of these 2 incredible coaches that both of them kind of fell into their laps. I don't remember what the situation was with Bear Bryant, but he was at Texas A&M. He's from Arkansas. He was coaching at Texas A&M, ends up at Alabama, and goes on this run after he had already been doing well at A&M. Then Nick Saban, same thing, comes to LSU. We hire him away from Michigan State because Michigan State didn't want to pay him, and we were like, no, we need a coach. You come over here. We're getting rid of Jared DiNardo. Let's go. And we bring Nick Saban in. He takes over Louisiana, locks it down, and like LSU is a national championship winner in year 4 under Saban. And then he tries to go to the NFL and
didn't even finish the season.
Falls directly into the lap of Alabama when they are in desperate need of a coach. And I have had to watch that shit for Jeremiah. I mean, not Jeremiah. Tyler knows I talk about this way too much.
At least once every other week on these.
Every other week. It's okay.
I mean, if that happened to me, we had a coach go to the NFL and he stunk.
I'm with him.
And then we already replaced him with somebody, and we won national titles without him. So we're like, we don't need him.
Yeah.
Well, hey, look, we did that with Les Miles. Les Miles won a national championship with Nick Saban's talent.
We instead just gave Mark Richt 15 years. That's what we said. 15 years. That's it. Only 15 years.
Only 15 years. Yeah.
I forgot that you guys played in the national championship again. And because I remember when Georgia played Alabama in the national championship and lost. And then they played him and won.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then, and we had played Georgia in the regular season, and then played them again in the SEC championship. Beat them both times. But it's happened before where like there's these rematches either in the like regular season and SEC championship, or SEC championship and then the national championship, or something of that nature. In the LSU case, it was Alabama. We beat them in the regular season, won the division. They didn't even win the division, let alone the conference. And then somehow they were like, no, you know what? All the other conference champions aren't good enough. Give Alabama another crack at these guys. And so I wanted to ask you about this, Drew, like the possibility of playing Oregon again, the rematch. I know you got to get past Tennessee first, so let's not jump too far ahead. But do you like the idea of like getting another crack at them?
Love it.
See, and that's the thing. Like that, like to me, that's the difference. Is the team that won the first time is usually not like awesome. We beat these guys.
I just
Now
think
we
if
have to
you
beat him
think you,
again. Like you feel
I
like it's
just
like
like
you beat a boss and then you like turn the corner and he's there again. He's back
just like
Yeah.
alive.
what Dan Lanning said, awesome, what an opportunity. I think it's like the
Right.
same thing for the Buckeyes. Like we were
I think
supposed
it's
to
gonna
be
be
the best
great.
team this year. Everybody
Right,
talked
run it
about it.
back. We listen. You beat him. You got to beat him twice. Not you don't have to, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that this is the only matchup that has a chance to run it back, realistically, because I had a feeling. My suspicion was if they put Alabama in, somehow their path is going to go through us because that's what the committee loves. Um,
Oh
I
yeah.
like that this is the matchup that we run back instead of us playing Texas for the third time,
Right.
unless we both make it to the Natty.
I really
Yeah.
thought that was a possibility that y'all were gonna have to play
But
Texas again.
I'm also happy that Ohio State doesn't have to play Georgia again yet. Like we just played Georgia. I didn't want to have to play Clemson again right
I
away.
would've
Was
We
that a
loved
just
couple of years ago?
Yeah, we played Clemson a couple times and like they beat us.
Mhm.
They beat Urban Meyer twice. They
Yeah.
gave Dabo Sweeney gave Urban Meyer his worst loss ever.
Mhm.
So I like these brackets. I like, hey, let the other Big Ten teams, the other real Big Ten teams, match up against the best SEC team.
Mm.
And if they can make it there, that's
I didn't think
great.
about that, but you actually have you have three legacy Big Ten teams that could all make it to the semis,
Which
and
is
if you
awesome.
knock Oregon off, so that's actually kind of
The
cool. Yeah.
Pac-12 disbanded and infiltrated the conferences, and now
The Battle of Indiana, hey, if Notre Dame beats Indiana, Notre Dame gets an opportunity to take down Georgia. I
I
bet
love
Notre
that.
Dame fans are looking forward to that. Penn State's just happy to look like they get the
The
easiest
12-team
bracket.
playoff was built for Penn State. I will stand on that.
It really
The 12-team
was.
playoff was built for the Penn States of the world. It's the truth. Like
That's a that's a
And Notre
fact.
Dame's, but Notre Dame did make it to the playoff quite a few times.
Hmm.
I think this
They
is the
never
best
did
Notre Dame
well.
team. I mean,
It
not
was
best Notre Dame.
allegedly also built for teams like LSU, but well, we won't get into that. What we will do though is we will get
I bet
into
money on LSU with that Bama game, man. I was very disappointed. I was like,
Yeah,
a
well,
night game. They got
yeah.
Bama at a night game, and then it was like the only teams they've lost to at night, and I didn't realize it was Bama. Bama's
Yeah.
the only
Bama
team.
owns. Chad is also the point he brings up a lot is that for some reason, in a home and away, LSU does better in Tuscaloosa.
We have a
For
better
some
record in
reason.
Tuscaloosa than we do in Baton Rouge. I don't know why, but we
It's
do.
wild.
It makes no sense. Like that was one of the things Nick Saban did when Nick
Yeah.
Saban came to LSU. He beat Alabama his first year at LSU. For the first time, we had beaten Alabama in Baton Rouge in 20 years.
So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So here's like another interesting thing with the Buckeyes matchup. So let's say Arizona State is the real deal, which they looked
Mhm.
I
pretty
think
good.
they are. I think they could absolutely beat somebody 100%.
Right.
They're the right team. It's crazy that, and that's what I love about this playoff too. They were the preseason Big 12 last place team.
Yeah.
I
And then
think that
like
Arizona State can absolutely beat somebody. I think that if Clemson makes it through, that Arizona State can beat them. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Texas is ready for a ball of fire like Scatterboo. I don't think that anybody really
Adaboo's
is.
good. That dude's a
He is
scary player, man.
the only problem is like, and Levitt's a good quarterback, but the biggest problem I see is, and I don't know. They say he's out indefinitely, maybe out for the year, but their number one receiver who
Tyson,
had
who's
like,
also a stud.
yeah, he was a
Jordan
monster,
Tyson.
over 1,000 yards receiving and like 10 touchdowns, and the next closest guy had like 17 receptions coming into the championship game. I think
Run the
he's up to
ball.
like
Run the
23
ball.
now or something, but it's a big drop off from that guy to those guys, but they have time to prepare, and who knows if he's going to be able to be healthy. I don't know what his arm. He had his arm in a sling, during the championship game, so I'm not sure what the situation is there. But it's just it's a lot like to ask to we're gonna see, but like I think there's a lot of this where we're gonna start to see how either the strength and the power of the Big Ten and the SEC is put on display, that like y'all just don't have the depth to be able to hang and to be able to make deep runs in a tournament like this with this much volume of, you got 7 teams out of 12 that are from the Big Ten or the SEC,
Yeah.
and then 2 more from the ACC. So like, good luck everybody else, because it's, you know what I mean. It's going to be tough to overcome all that, but the flip side of that is, have we started to see, because we saw a lot of this parity, we saw a lot of these upsets
NIL.
as the NIL and the transfer
Mhm.
portal stuff made it to where
It's the best thing
now
I said.
it's even the
Parity.
field a little bit
There's
more.
no Bo
Yeah.
Scarboroughs. That's my
That's right.
line.
So Sam Levitt has only lost one game, and that was to Texas Tech. So that's
Texas Tech is actually pretty good too. Like if you look at like who they've played, who they've beat, who they've like narrowly lost to, they're actually a pretty decent team. Like that's not a black eye loss. It's no worse than Alabama losing to Oklahoma, and I think Alabama is still a really good team.
Yeah, they
I'm
lost by
laughing at
8.
them.
They lost by 8 points. So all right, so like go back. So rolling it back. So the exciting thing about that bracket too is Arizona State. Let's say they win, so then the winner of the Rose Bowl gets to play Arizona State. So then you could potentially have that 1996 Rose Bowl rematch between Arizona State and Ohio State. And I don't think Arizona State's even been good since that
Is that
year.
the Jake Plummer?
Jake Plummer.
Yeah, Jake Plummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you got the other thing too. Let's say Georgia somehow magically loses to Notre Dame, and you got Penn State. Then you'd have Penn State and Notre Dame matching up, and like two historic programs that haven't played a whole bunch. I don't think Georgia and Notre Dame have played a whole bunch either.
Yeah, you beat them a couple of years ago, like 10-3 or something like that.
We did a home and home with them and beat them both times. Like I have the picture.
We
did a home and home with them. We went to in 17 and 18.
17, 18. That's what I was going to say. It was right around when y'all went to the national championship.
And we beat them again. But we have a historic. I mean, I think we run back the national championship against Penn State if we play them. From back in the 80s.
Yeah, that's interesting too for Georgia and Penn State too. So you also got Georgia and Penn State. So I think there's like a lot of cool.
The Georgia Penn State thing runs deep for my man Tyler, though.
Yeah,
of course,
in
Tyler.
State country.
I think Tyler would love to see Penn State win.
There was a spot. There was the only way I would have been happy before we fell ass backwards into the SEC championship by Alabama losing. That if we had to go on the road, I would have loved nothing more for them to come up here in Pennsylvania and play happy. I would have been at that game 1,000%. There was a part of once we were in the SEC championship, I said, "Fuck that, let's win this and get it over with." But there was a part of me before that. I was like, you know what, we gotta go on the road. Let's just come up to Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? But
Tyler and I talked about it a few times. That that would have been really cool to have Georgia play in Happy Valley, and then Tyler would get to go like right down the road, decked in red and black, and invade the stadium with one of those 3,500 tickets. Apparently,
that's crazy.
3,500, man. That's it. $100. Yeah, that was when he said that today. I was like, wow. OSU should really take advantage of that. And
yeah, the whole stadium needs to be packed out.
Get it electric like it was against Indiana. Indiana struggled against the Buckeyes because they couldn't hear the count. They had to go to a silent count. And Cignetti said that throughout their whole game.
He said he would never do it again. That's right. Well, and what's crazy about that too is like typically for these kind of games, like I've generally found I can get visiting team tickets because they usually have like more than enough, like maybe 10, 20,000 or something like that. And I'm like, all right, forget me trying to go after the LSU tickets for the Sugar Bowl. Let me go try to get some Nebraska tickets because those people aren't coming.
Yeah.
I can go buy their tickets. And so that's it. But like to only have 3,500 and Knoxville isn't that far from Columbus.
Nope.
Like that's not that far of a ride to go to that game. I'm blown away by that. That's
I think, but I mean, we'll see. And I bet Ohio State fans try to buy those tickets, and I bet some of them successfully do. I bet Tennessee fans scout their tickets to Buckeye fans,
which is crazy.
You think that Tennessee fans aren't going to show up? Like I
don't know.
I think they are, and I think it's kind of a shame that you're going to have 100,000 Buckeye fans and 3,000 Tennessee fans in the stadium.
They should.
It'd be way cooler if it was like I don't know. I know it's a home game and it's supposed to be a home game, but I think maybe 10,000
1 second,
tickets.
I have to go
I was gonna
invest
say,
in
even
this
even
sound.
10, even
All right.
10% of the
I'll be
stadium.
right back. There's a weird
Okay.
sound, and it's just me in my office, so I gotta go look
Okay.
at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my dog's barking. That's what it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. But well, look, while he's away, it gives me an opportunity to do this.
We
So
can roll
LSU's
out of here
playing Baylor
shortly anyway.
in the Texas Bowl on New Year's Eve.
Woo!
South Carolina is going to play
Yeah.
Illinois in the Citrus. That's going to be an interesting one. That's actually so. This is one of the ones that we've talked about where we've talked about who's good in the SEC versus who's good in the Big Ten, and when you get to South Carolina, Illinois, I think Illinois is like right there. It's the 4 teams that made the playoff, and then it's Illinois. Like that's the very next team, and so like it's kind of the same thing here, where you got the 3 SEC teams, and then you have Alabama and
Doors are
South
all locked.
Carolina.
Everything's good.
Okay, good. So we're going through a couple of little bowl games here. South Carolina against Illinois in the Citrus. It's like SEC 5 versus Big Ten 5, somewhere in that neighborhood. That one should be
who's I guess
who's not going to play. That's the thing. I don't, if you have like Rocket Sanders doesn't play and Kyle Kennard doesn't play and Devin, or what's his name? Is it Devin Stewart? Dylan Stewart. If he doesn't play, then it's like, well, who knows? And the same thing with this. Alabama's playing Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl on New Year's Eve. Huh?
Lenore Sellers will play though. He's
No,
not going
Sellers
anywhere.
is like a freshman or sophomore, so yeah, he's not going anywhere. Freshman, yes. Now Alabama, Michigan, I think that's another one where it's like, well, I don't expect Jalen Milroe to play that game.
And Michigan, they got a lot of momentum going into it, and this is a rematch because they just played in a bowl. Well, it's a rematch from last year.
Yeah. Yep. And then and Malachi Moore's probably not playing in that game either. And there's probably a couple other.
I doubt Michigan's tight end's going to play. I wonder how many Michigan guys that like their seniors are gonna play. Loveland's probably not going to play.
D-lineman,
Will Johnson's probably not going to play.
The only school that I know for a certified fact is playing their guys is Colorado because Dion said so. Colorado is playing their starters Twitter to post. They get to play BYU again, which is also stupid in their bowl game. But that's the only team I know. Like nobody's. I mean, it was pretty cool when Alabama said "fuck it" and had Bryce Young and Will
Anderson.
Howard. Will Anderson. Thank you. Names will always escape me in the worst times. Go to play Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. So I mean, that's the only team who has said we're all playing so far. So I'll be curious to see what happens if anybody else decides to do that. I doubt it, but it's nice to see.
Missouri, Iowa in the Music City Bowl. I'm just going. These are like the Big Ten SEC matchups, and there's a few of them. So Missouri, Iowa. That's another one where like it depends. Like, does Brady Cook play? Does Luther Burden play? And then I don't know who Iowa. Like, what's the
McNamara's transferring again.
Yeah, he stinks anyways. It's hard to not think Missouri doesn't beat Iowa. It's hard to not think that South Carolina doesn't beat Illinois. I don't know who's not sitting out on Illinois though. Like I didn't really.
I don't know that about South Carolina too. And so it's like, and there's some key dudes who like I could totally see them sitting out like that. If
these games might all end up being really interesting just because nobody's playing.
Yeah, it's like the twos versus the twos.
It's not a real good indicator of like how good these teams are.
It could be for next year, though. It really could be for next year, though.
Maybe,
there's going to be at least 1 or 2 of these games, the bowl games that the starters out. We're going to get 1 or 2 teams that are going to have a guy that plays for the first time and gets to that team very excited. The Jackson Arnold, the Nico Iamaleava, they get to play in the bowl game, and then you have to wait for the following year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're going to have that. I feel like a couple of games where the young guy gets to play for the first time and lights it up and gets that fan base excited.
Ole Miss is playing Duke.
Yeah, I'm getting to it, man. All right, so Texas 8-4 playing USC in the Las Vegas Bowl. That's an interesting one. And for those of you who don't know, Texas 8-4, that's their name because that is their top end. The best they can do is go 8-4. Everything else is like when they get to 7 wins, it's like, oh, they're going to get to 4 wins right around the same time they get to that 8th win. I mean, 4 losses is right about the time they get to that 8th win.
How much more does Lincoln Riley have there, we think? How much more time does Lincoln Riley have?
I don't know. Like I think the way that they play, and they had a really good recruiting class.
Yeah.
So I think he's still got some
I think they should
time.
fire him and bring back Pete Carroll.
Do it,
yeah.
man. Why
He
not?
Even
probably
if he's in his 70s, fuck it, Pete Carroll.
He was
Like at least
paying players anyway. Now it's legal,
Yeah,
baby.
now
Let's
he
go.
can-
yeah, get him in there to be like the GM or something. Like you
Dude,
see
Andrew
Luck.
Luck. That was so cool. That's awesome. Andrew
Well-
Luck finally existing after a couple years. We realize he's still alive and well.
Yeah, right.
Stanford was always a good program until recently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
no, for
McCaffrey,
sure.
the Bryce Love era. Yeah, they were a squad for a while.
Well, didn't they come back and beat Colorado last year?
Yeah.
And
They did.
all right, so Ole Miss Duke in the Gator Bowl. I don't like what and how many people are actually going to play for Ole Miss? Like this is one of those.
Good job,
This
Jackson
is one where I would
Dart.
be like, I would target this one. I'd be like, I definitely think Ole Miss is going to lose this game because I think all those dudes they hired to play for Ole Miss this year are like, fuck y'all, I'm out.
Yeah,
Now
Jackson
I don't know if
Dart.
they're
Good job, buddy.
contractually obligated to play in the game or not with the money that they paid them. Who knows? But I would be shocked if they don't sit out. I wonder if that's one of the things that we haven't even like really touched on with the NIL stuff. Is like, can you make dudes play bowl games?
Maybe
Maybe
Contract.
what?
I
Maybe
don't know
now
if they
that
have
they're going to be
contract.
paid by the university.
With the profit sharing thing or whatever, the
Yeah.
revenue sharing. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
I think so. Here's a really interesting matchup we haven't talked about, and it's because it's from my own alma mater. When I was a freshman in college, Larry Fitzgerald came into the University of Toledo. For some reason, they were 8th in the nation. For some reason, a MAC school was hosting them. It
Hell
was when
yeah,
they were still
action,
in the
baby. Let's
the
go.
Big East, and I was like, I think we can win this game. We had Lance Moore, who I played against in high school,
Oh, yeah.
and I mean, I guess I didn't. I was on the sideline. He was a couple years
Yeah.
older, but I was in the game. But I didn't play that game. But anyway, Lance Moore was
Like
incredible
Lance
in high
Moore,
school.
former Saint Lance Moore.
Former Saint Lance Moore went to University of Toledo because he was undersized. Nobody wanted him, and we had this dude Bruce Gradkowski from Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Pittsburgh didn't want him, so they had this big quarterback Rutherford. He was pretty solid. He was Larry Fitzgerald's quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up being one of the greatest game I've ever seen live in person. We end up beating them in the Glass Bowl. We tear down our goalposts and throw them in the Auto River. So it's really cool to see this matchup in Detroit at Ford Field this year on December 26th.
That's awesome! Wow, just the Drew Sample Bowl is
hey
rename it.
Toledo for some reason too. Toledo and BG. I mean, Toledo beat the shit out of Mississippi State.
Dude,
so it's like,
BG's,
and then they couldn't beat any team in the MAC.
Toledo Bowling Green
might go be the first. Yeah, Bowling Green's tight end might be the first tight end drafted in the league.
And then Bowling Green beat Toledo, but Bowling Green almost beat Texas A&M in Texas, and then they almost beat Penn State in Beaver Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's Ohio University playing? Didn't they just win?
They
don't have a bowl.
They beat Miami, Ohio, right?
Now we're digging deep here, boys.
Here,
we're digging deep.
Did they say they're not in a bowl?
Look, man, I pulled up all the SEC teams because this is an SEC
I'm just
show,
looking at all the bowl games that have been called, and I don't see either team for the MAC championship.
Well, there's still some TBDs.
Bowling Green is playing Arkansas State in a bowl game. In the 68 Ventures Bowl, Bowling Green will be playing them there. Navy's playing Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl, which is very interesting.
The Lockheed Martin Armed Forces.
Everybody gets ballistic missiles to take home for their goodie bags.
Shout out to Brett Venables.
Nebraska gets to go up to the Pinstripe Bowl. Miami gets to play Iowa State. Good job, Cam Ward. Congratulations, buddy.
This one's kind of crazy.
Miami of Ohio is playing Colorado State in the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl.
There it is.
Hell yeah.
I like this one, the Gasparilla Bowl, Florida and Tulane. This is Billy Napier, who used to coach at ULL, and he's going up against Tulane like it's an old Louisiana school rivalry, but he's coaching a team in Florida now.
What about the Kinder's Texas Bowl, bud?
Yeah, I don't know who's in that. Oh wait, the Texas Bowl is us, right?
We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, we talked about that while you were getting up to go check.
We didn't get to talk about it. We kind of skipped around. We didn't get to.
Yeah,
how do you feel,
Who's
Chad?
playing? Who's sitting out for LSU?
How do I feel? I don't know. I don't even know who's going to be on the roster. That's the thing. We'll find out a whole lot more tomorrow.
Your team doesn't make the playoff because so many guys just leave.
Yeah.
And
Well,
actually, though, all the dudes that left, I was bummed about Dallin Hayden. He's been a big turd for Colorado this year.
mhm.
Our boy Julian Fleming didn't really do shit for Penn State. He didn't even catch a pass last night.
Yeah, bro. He was.
Chip Trainum, it doesn't even go by Chip anymore, and he's barely done shit for Kentucky. He goes by his first name, Deontay, I think. Deontay
Okay.
Trainum or
Yeah, yeah,
Demonte
yeah,
Trainum. And then Evan Pryor probably had his played best for Cincinnati.
yeah. Mm.
And those are all the dudes we really lost last year. Oh,
Well,
besides Kyle McCord, who did beat Miami's to lock in
Miami.
our fucking home field advantage.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Still
He should have
awesome.
told. He should have told y'all both. You're welcome. You're welcome, Ohio State and Clemson. But yeah. So, who? What? I don't know. It's our former defensive coordinator when we won the national championship, Dave Aranda, coaching Baylor, and Baylor's was terrible last year, and I thought they were going to be terrible again this year. They started off really slow, but they've come on strong and got themselves
6
in a
in a
bowl
row.
game. And
Wow, they
LSU
beat
is
Kansas too when Kansas was
yeah,
hot. They blew
when
them
Kansas
out.
is good, yeah. And LSU, like who's come? We already got a bunch of dudes who've entered the portal. Mason Taylor has already declared for the draft. We're waiting to find out if Garrett Nussmeier and Harold Perkins and Emory Jones are coming back. Garrett Dellinger and what's his name? Will Campbell. It's like you've got two dudes. Well, no, three because Miles Frazier too. Three of our offensive linemen, possibly four, are declaring for the NFL draft or are out of eligibility. So like I don't know. Like, what do I expect? I expect this to be like a complete toss up, and it's all about whether Garrett Nussmeier plays or not. If he's coming back and he plays, then I think we're okay. But if not, it's going to be tough. So, but yeah. So, Blind Squirrel says, we brought up a great question about NIL stipulations, like what happens. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch as this goes on because it's one of the big frustrations everybody has about these games. Like you have these dudes who are just like bailing on their teams and their fan bases for bowl games and whatnot. And I get it on a certain level because if you're not playing for the playoff, the national championship, think about like the basketball stuff. Like how many teams have dudes who just skip town when they go to the NIT? Probably a bunch. There's no bowl games in basketball, so you don't have this problem. Um, but when you're playing, if you're playing in the Gasparilla Bowl, do you really expect some dude who's hoping to go in the third round to risk a career-threatening injury? I mean, but if you're paying him $500,000 a year, maybe you do.
Yeah, I think for name and likeness, there's not much you can say. I think it's like the you can't really say anything to somebody unless it's like for
Condition of payment, yeah. But the
yeah.
but the revenue sharing is a different thing because then it's like you're basically being paid
Then you're
as an
paid to be there.
employee at that point.
So then I feel like you can.
Yeah, right. Or you just dock them a game check. So
Literally,
like the NFL.
we're getting closer to the NFL by
It
the
is.
year. But it's the
Look,
better NFL. Like I swear to
I was
God,
gonna
like
say,
it's not even close. I didn't even
yeah.
care. The Eagles played at 1:00 today. I didn't even care. I was half watching it, but I was more watching
You were
the
you
Joey
were watching them
Galloway
talk.
and Reese talk forever.
I was gonna
Because I
say
was curious.
you're watching Joey Galloway talk to Reese David or
You got to
what's
be
his name?
happy, man. Saquon Barkley's been
Dude,
been
listen,
taking
my,
over
my
games.
my friend who's also an Notre Dame fan is also conveniently a Giants fan, and so I get to shit all over
Oh well,
his situation.
tell him I
That
Giants
said
covering the
Saquon
spread
shows up.
today.
It breaks LaShawn McCoy's rushing
yeah.
record. Now we're really off. I think we should get up on out of here,
Yeah,
Chad. If we're talking
tell
the
your
NFL.
friend I said the Saints said hello today. Even though they should have lost so they could get a higher draft pick, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
Yes, we will wrap it up. We'll get into a little bit more bold discussion as we get a little closer to that era of this season. But we got a lot of stuff to break down as we get closer to these matchups. And Drew, if you're available, we'd like to have you come back and we can talk about this stuff some more as we get a little closer to the games.
Definitely.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody coming through. If you haven't already, be sure to like, to share, to subscribe. Don't be afraid to go, check out some of our past videos and leave your comments there. If you see some stuff that that you maybe disagree with, whatever. We love all the people who tell us we suck and that we're frauds. Miami is still a fraud. Alabama still lost to Vanderbilt, and hopefully Georgia Tech doesn't beat Vanderbilt, because then I'll be able to talk shit to Alabama fans and Miami fans at the same time. And we appreciate everybody coming through. It's been great having you here, and Drew, we appreciate you coming through as well to join us for the show. Thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to our future discussions as we get deeper into this playoff season. It's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. Never seen anything like it in college football, and I don't even think we know what we're about to see. I think we're going to be blown away by how, if this season is any indication, this regular season has been so crazy. I think it's going to be an epic inaugural playoff, and I can't wait for it. And then we got some basketball stuff to talk about once the football season is over with, because the SEC's got some stuff going on. We'll talk about it later. For now, for Drew, for Tyler, I'm Chad. This is the South End Zone. We're out of here. Peace, y'all. Yes, horns down. Later.